Hey everybody, I've gotten a few comments recently in regards to my Sun canister filter that lets me know that there is still a common misunderstanding going on about how nitrates develop in our filters and how they get into our tanks. And so today we're going to discuss that in sort of an overall kind of way. But I want to first start by addressing the misconception, and that is that the nitrates are somehow contained within the filter, and the nitrates are at a higher concentration within the filter material or within the water that's in the canister or something to that effect. And that's simply not true. I've done tests in the past where I've demonstrated it. We're not going to get into that in this video, but I've taken water directly out of a filthy, nasty bottom of a canister filter and checked it, and it's identical to the water in the tank, and that's always the case, and that's always going to be the case. You don't have any particular storage of nitrates in your filter. I think where the confusion gets started is when you've got a canister filter, you allow the mold and the detritus and the organic waste to build up in the filter, and it just keeps collecting and collecting and collecting, and all the while that is decomposing and producing ammonia, which eventually gets broken down through our nitrogen cycle and becomes nitrate. And so the filter itself can be sometimes referred to as a nitrate factory. It simply produces lots and lots of nitrates. But I don't know if it really does make that big of a difference between having that kind of a filter, you know, a canister filter, versus the hang on the back filter. I've been thinking about it a lot today. Now, common wisdom would say, well, if you've got this great big filter that's just collecting stuff up versus this filter where you're frequently changing out the pads, you know, every time you change those pads out of a hang on the back, you're removing that detritus and that organic waste, and so it's no longer in the tank breaking down. And there does make a certain amount of sense to that argument, but all arguments that seem to make sense on the surface don't necessarily hold water when you really start thinking about it. My best example is with coffee. A lot of people think that that really bold, rich, dark roasted coffee is going to be a really strong coffee in the sense of a lot of caffeine. And that's not the case. The roasting process actually destroys the caffeine, and so the longer and darker it's roasted, you'll get more bold flavor and everything, but you get less and less caffeine the longer it's roasted. So if you're looking for the caffeine jolt, you want a very light roast. That's why breakfast blends are typically a very mild roast, whereas after dinner coffees are generally a dark, or even an espresso roast would be a good after dinner coffee. Almost all the caffeine's been roasted out of it. So initially you might think one thing, but once you know a little bit more about what's going on, you find something else is actually the case. And I'm not saying that that's true with the canister filter, but I don't know that a canister filter contributes to more nitrate in your tank. And the reason I'm saying that is because the hang on the back filter has very small filter pads. So if I'm in there and I'm removing them on a regular basis, I'm genuinely not really removing that much material from the tank. And so I don't know how big of a difference that's really going to make. I also have a lot less circulation and a lot less water flow with the hang on the back filter, so all of the mold that would be caught in my canister filter is not necessarily going to get picked up by that hang on the back filter, and so it's going to stay in the tank itself physically. It's going to get trapped under rocks and, you know, down into the substrate and so on and so forth. So a combination of frequent hang on the back filter changes combined with lots of gravel vacuuming and mold reduction, that would keep your nitrates from building up faster than if you simply had a canister filter that was just allowing all that stuff to collect in the filter. The other aspect of it is material that's in a filter, organic material, does not continue breaking down and decomposing forever. It breaks down, and then once it's broken down, it's broken down. It becomes silt or whatever you want to call it, but it's not in there continually breaking down. You can think of it as dirt at the bottom of the tank. Eventually, it's decomposed, and while it may be physically clogging your filter and gumming it all up and making it look all nasty, how much of that really is still in there continually breaking down? Now, I'm also talking about normal, regular filter maintenance. I know some people go 6 or 8, 9 months between filter changes on their canister filter. If you go a month or 2 months, that's probably pushing it, but that's about normal for a lot of people, I think. And under those circumstances, how much of that stuff in there is really still breaking down and creating more nitrate? So again, I tend to agree that having a canister filter on the tank is going to be more likely for the nitrate to increase faster, but I don't know that that's true. And the only way that that really makes a difference is if you do a water change and then you wait to see how long it takes for the nitrate to build back up. If you've got the hang on the back filter and you do a gravel vac and you do a big water change and then you do a filter change and you're starting with a clean filter pad and you're starting with nice, fresh, vac gravel, then you're going to have a nice slow buildup of the nitrate. The idea that if you've got the canister filter and you simply do a water change and you let the canister filter ride and it's got stuff in there, that stuff's already breaking down. So the moment you fill your tank back up and get it going again, you've instantly got all of this organic material that's being broken down, and boom, it's just dumping nitrate right back into your tank, and within a few days you're going to be right back to where you started. Is that true? I don't know. I've always just kind of assumed it was, but now that I've actually stopped to start thinking about it, I don't know that that's necessarily true, and I don't know how to do a comparison that would be fair other than having 2 tanks of similar size, similar, scape. You want all the same little nooks and crannies for stuff to get trapped in. You want the same amount of fish and feeding cycle. You'd really have to have 2 very similar tanks, and then basically maintain one with the canister filter and maintain the other one with the hang on the back filter. And once they're well established and matured, then you could start checking after water changes and seeing how quickly your nitrates rise back up again. Again, the common wisdom is that if you've got the canister filter on there, once you do a water change, unless you change the filter too, you're just going to have your nitrates coming right back up because of all that stuff that's in the filter. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. It might be. Maybe someday we'll be able to do an experiment and figure that out. But again, I don't really have any way of doing an experiment with that. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this subject. Again, I know this is one of those things that either people don't really think that much about or don't think about at all if you don't have a canister filter. But give it a little bit of thought. Consider your circumstances, and have you ever wondered why, do you do water changes and then almost immediately your nitrates are right back up to where you started? Is that something you struggle with? Do you not have that problem in tanks that have hang on the back filters? I don't know. I'd be interested to find out someone else's opinion. But again, I think the hang on the back filters are convenient for certain tanks, and the canister filters are more convenient for other tanks. And generally for me, it's a size thing. If it's a larger tank, I tend to put a canister filter on it. If it's a smaller tank, I tend to put a hang on the back filter on it. Other than that, I don't think there's any particular one or the other that works better for everything. It depends on your tank, it depends on your circumstances, it depends on what kind of maintenance you want to do. The canister filters are a lot more troublesome to get in there and take apart and pull all that stuff about, and you got to carry the heavy bucket of water, and but you only have to do that every couple of months. Whereas with the hang on the back filters, they're smaller, they don't move as much water, and they don't really do as much as far as the tank is concerned. You don't have as much biological filtration. But at the same time, you can just pop those little filter pads out, pop a new filter pad in, and lickety-split, you're done your filter change, and it's as easy as that. So they both have their pros and cons, and again, I'm not bashing either one of them. I'm just saying to stop and think about what's really going on in your filter between water changes, because it's not necessarily what you think about on the face value. So thanks for watching that. Hope that helped. Give you a little bit of food for thought. Make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss anything I got coming up. You never know what it's going to be with me. So thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.